Hi, everybody. This is an episode of We Are M&R. This is Thomas Tringham. Today, I'm super lucky to have Joe and Lucas from Rowboat Creative here. So we're gonna chat a little
Hello.
bit about all things rowboat and creative and how things are going for you guys. So, well, welcome, and it's great to talk to you guys again. We've worked on some things in the
Hello,
past.
Tom.
Yes, yes, and so why don't you go ahead and just introduce your company, introduce yourselves just real quick. So Joe, why don't you go first, and then Lucas after.
Well, hi. I'm Joe from Rowboat Creative. Thanks for joining us. We are long-term. We adopted really early into the M&R world, and it has taken us to where we are right now, which was from my basement to a 60,000 square foot facility. And honestly, the first guy that we started working with at M&R, Humberto, who talked to us two knuckleheads, Lucas and I, when we were kids, took us dead serious when we had nothing. and uh, and here we are today. He's still helping us, and our journey with M&R has been literally amazing. Uh, but we are screen printers at heart, and we also have other services we offer: embroidery, dye sublimation, all that kind of stuff. But we are DIY till we die, and M&R has been here for us since the beginning. So we couldn't be happier to be here. Thank you, Tom.
Great, great, Joe. Great, Joe. Lucas, you wanna jump in here?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, pretty much what Joe said. We started Robo Creative 14 years ago in a basement, and the intention was never to get to this point. I think that what has separated us from anything else that is out there. I mean, it's a somewhat typical but atypical success story, especially in the screen printing industry. We see a lot of people that are coming from the music industry, but really have that kind of bootstraps, DIY mentality. And, I mean, we're definitely blessed and, happy and excited to be where we are, but it's been an interesting journey for sure. And to be along with M&R, from the start of that is just a really cool story. And, I think there's, well, I'm sure we'll get into some more of the history, but I mean, it's been a great ride. And I think that there's a lot of reasons why, we jumped in with M&R from the beginning and have been there pretty much ever since.
Um, Lucas had some technical issues when we were first talking. Tom and I were talking, and we were talking about old school rowboat and M&R. And I was telling Tom about me having to get inside the Economax dryer
Yes.
and tape every wire, labeling every wire, because I had to dismantle it, take the whole top off so we could have it make two different turns. And that was the first time I ever got inside a machine and messed around with electrical.
I have this
It
vision of
worked.
you like a magician act where your feet are sticking out one end and your like head is in the other,
Oh,
and they're
there's been
separated,
there's
in the
been
middle.
plenty of those visuals.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
We've
It's
definitely
so funny.
got a catalog of ridiculous situations that have occurred over the 14 years between us both.
Many
Yeah,
electrocutions.
Right.
yeah. Hopefully it was unplugged, right? Yeah, that's the goal. So you guys know,
Sometimes you
like
just got to go.
exactly. When,
Yeah, the shirts won't
when did
print
you guys
themselves.
know that you were like gonna do primarily t-shirts or that you were in the screen printing business?
I don't feel like we ever planned on ever even turning it into a business. It was, Lucas and I just got some eBay presses that were complete garbage. Uh, and we just goofed around down there, and in complete perfect Lucas fashion, he showed up the night before some huge Metro album release with a bunch of shirts that he bought, which I just found some of the original ones in a box in the
They were
warehouse. But
Massimo
they're
from
probably like what,
Target.
Lucas walks in at maybe what, like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, the night before the show. We had done zero successful prints,
Yeah.
and we sort of just figured it out. And it just became, okay, let's just make sure it's for this. Okay, let's just make sure it's for this. Oh, I got a friend who does this. Let's make sure it's for this. And And
Specifically because we just threw it at an M&R press, and when you throw any blank shirts at M&R, they just come out printed.
Well, I appreciate that, but yeah, not always the case, right? But yeah,
Right.
for sure. Hey, what's the last month and a half been like? I mean, I've been asking that to everybody, and fortunately now I'm getting quite a few stories of people kind of pivoting or coming out of this thing. Not everybody's come out all the way, but just what's the ride been like for you guys?
I think confusing and exciting all in, one breath. We've done a couple, I've done a couple webinars, we've done a couple interviews, we've done a couple Zoom interviews together with Joe and I that have literally just been all over the place of, in the beginning of March, the feeling of just kind of doom and gloom, that would be there. And then within the next hour, feeling like we'll be fine. Like we're used to this and this is just, we got to get the warrior mentality back. And then, we're on top of the world again. Then we have, some clarity, and then all of a sudden that's pulled out from under us again. And then, I think all of the small businesses with everybody got the false sense of hope really quickly that, okay, the government's going to jump in and we're all going to be saved. And then, within the next 2 minutes that there's, this, this looming gray, well, still gray area for a lot of those things that are there, and, just really just confusing. So, I mean, for us, it's been all of that, but I think that we've gone back to what is our basement mentality of, really just Joe and I were talking about this yesterday for a long time, that, we had no choice but to go back to really the survival mode and trying to figure out, we came from this from a creative background. We come from this, as artists, I think, at heart. And so how do we create something out of nothing? And so that was really what the situation was. So we've had some really, really amazing success early on. We jumped in, with our Creatives Who Care initiative, which was just, a passion project for us, but also just kind of a survival asset, as well. So, that I'm sure we'll dig into that a little bit more, but, that was something that we just had to put our heads down, really difficult. We had been working on it for a while, and kind of the concept of everything for a while before COVID hit, but it was just accelerated even more as soon as that happened. And so how can we help people at the same time? How can we help ourselves, sustain and keep the lights on, but how do we also keep, some of our people in place, and, making sure that we're trying to take care of everything full circle. And that in itself really has been kind of daunting and stressful because, at the end of the day, we didn't come from, running Nike or Adidas, and we haven't had this experience, nobody to this, has had this experience. So, for us to be put in this position and ultimately be left in a situation where we don't have answers for people is just really kind of disarming. And I personally, we like to control things, and we like to be able to be in control of our own destiny. And when that's really not the case, then all of a sudden we're just there, and it's just, I don't know, let's just make it work. And we're very lucky and, I think talented and sharp to be able to create something with the I don't know mentality, but it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we went right back to the basement and started cranking. I don't think we really even lost a day.
No.
We've come up with a lot of cool stuff in the basement. Lucas not too long ago sent me a photo of us, like in a really early photo of me standing in my boxers trying to screen print jeans because we had some special new jean discharge or something, and we didn't have anything to test it on, so I just took my pants off and we started screen printing them. And Lucas, of course, got a photo. So I could have ran for president, but there goes that. Thanks, Lucas.
Right. This was pre-HR for Rowboat Creative.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a deterrent now, though, as a matter of fact, but yeah, we don't have to get into that, but yeah.
He is harassing me.
It could be. Depends on who was there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes your company different? I mean, obviously, I know you started out with bands, but what else? What do you think, kind of, other than being a solution master, right? Figuring it out. Like, what do you think makes you guys different a little bit?
I think, I mean, for me personally, and I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, that honestly, at the end of the day, I think any business is able to survive once you have a sense of your relationships, and the vibe of how we operate is really what I think separates us. What we do, there's nothing specific that is, we could give you a rundown of every single piece of gear that we have. We could give you the ink we use, none of those things. We don't have some special secret sauce that is out there outside of what our mentality is and, I think what our drive is. So I think that's what really separates us. But honestly, I think that on the music side of things, where we are able to really shine is the fact that we know and we live that world for close to 30 years straight in the trenches. We've both been in larger touring bands. We understand the logistics, we understand the concepts of all that, and it's easy to say that you can learn that and to become part of that culture, but in reality, the fact that we've been on both sides of that. We are not trying to act at any times, especially in a heartfelt manner in an industry that is really what made us who we are. We don't want to be on the predatory side of that. So we take all of those concepts and we really throw them out the window, and we want to be there for the artist because we know that really is their lifeline. That's long and short of it. Why really the concept of Rowboat kind of started to come to mind was the fact that the project that I was in, we were doing a lot of really big touring, and we were making more money selling merchandise than we were making our guarantees for our shows. And so, we just had to get savvy really quickly with trying to figure out how do we maximize, our profit margin to sustain us as a band. And so that's where we went into the basement and said, well, if we can control this, if we can control better quality, if we can control minimums, if we control, different aspects of this that a lot of people are just refusing to do because they're just so stringent and saying, prints are 11 by 17, that's it, you got to order 48, here's a turnaround time. That didn't work for us. So I think that compassion is there. Outside of that, I think just the philanthropic side of it, that is really there, which is, shining through, I think, through the creatives who care. It's just that we just want to be part of, I think, a bigger story, and it's not important to us to have 10 million clients, and be able to report, here's, our huge grossing revenue numbers. I think at the end of the day, numbers and money are always part of business, but I mean, I think we're just kind of inherently, we want to be part of something that is just a very cool movement, and also just at any point wanting to, we're kind of the chameleons of the industry, and every time people turn around, they're like, "Wait, hold on a second. Is Rowboat an agency? Are they a contract printer? Are they a screen printer?" And we don't really care. That's, we do what we do because we're inspired to do things differently, and we're inspired to make a bigger picture. So, that's the long way of, I guess, saying how we're different. But I think there's a lot of passion behind everything that we do, and it's not just about saying, okay, well, let's crank this out, let's be the biggest facility, let's have the most employees, let's do all of that. Like, that literally means nothing to us. It's just about, we're more on the creative side and kind of the artists at heart, I think, and that's where people see that, and they feel it, and they feel that it's real, and they want to be intertwined with people that are just as compassionate about their projects and their livelihood as it is, for our business.
Yeah, Lucas brings up the people asking, Rowboat, are they an agency? Are they this? The answer is just yes to anything anyone asks. We're like,
Right.
oh, do that all the time. Which brings me to one time someone poked their head into one of our first shops and was like, do you guys do signs? We're like, yeah, sure. And the guy left, and we're like, how do we do signs? And this is before YouTube is what YouTube is now. We literally just called ink distributor, figured out what the enamel was to put on the signs. Oh, I didn't tell you what the signs turned out to be. They turned out to be the Chicago City Pay It box signs with the hand, with the coin. That was us. Some guy stuck his head in our office. I was going to say lied, but we spoke from a different time. I just, we eventually figured out how to do signs. We just didn't know how to do them just then. but I mean, we got ourselves a flat stock. I wish I had a Saturn, but this was really early in this is early in our years. We got an old beat up flat stock machine and just started making these signs. And at one point, someone came into our shop, and it was an OG screen printer who made the original signs, and was like, "Who made these signs?" I was like, "I did." And they're like, "How did you figure out how to do this? We've never seen them with this enamel on there, or with this 3M heat sensitive or pressure sensitive adhesive." And it was just because we didn't know. We went to, you know, techs and scientists and figured out ways to do stuff, and then just did it our own, you know, like in our own manner. And it turned out to be, you know, blowing away the minds of the people who have been making the, you know, the signs for the last 30 years or something. And I mean, we take that into everything we do. I mean, I could probably tell you like the voltage specs on on just like, you know, like even my auto drain on my compressor, because it literally is Lucas and I just sticking our head poking around. I want to know why, what does what, just so I could better control the quality in the end. We both like just getting so nerdy into the specs. And, you know, it's just wrench this and wrench this and wrench this. We used to always be like, how does this shop have these, you know, a white print that is just so perfect? Ours looks like garbage, you know. And it's not one single trick. It's like 40 tricks in every single part of the process, all the way down to, you know, what chemical do you use when you abrade your mesh? What mesh, you know, like the EOM, like we get totally nerdy like that. And I think that that is our escape from actual working. We get to just bury our heads, and for us, it's like playing around. And it just so happens that we were lucky to still be here, what, 14, 15 years later.
I think
For
that's
sure, for
that.
sure.
Yeah, that's like the creative side of it. That is, you know, that it wasn't like when that knock on the door and, you know, what turned into, you know, a huge city contract was like, all right, well, our eyes lit up with dollar signs like that. That's never been the concept to us. You know, I think for us, it's just, that's a creative challenge. They just came in and said, we have a need for this and we got to figure this out. And so to us, that could have been, you know, we could have been making spaceships. We're figuring out how to make signs instead. And so it was just like, okay, well, let's figure out how we can do this and how we can do that and how we can perfect it to the highest level, not just so that we can be seen as the best Chicago pay at parking sign, you know, manufacturers in the world, but just the fact of how do we perfect this craft, because the next thing is going to come along. And so, okay, how are we going to perfect that and how are we going to perfect that? So, I mean, it's still just really kind of that artist mentality of like, there's got to be a way to do this. We can figure it out. And like Joe was saying, with it becoming very almost scientific to a point, is we never jumped into it to think of it that way. You know, every single like level of business, as you continue going, you're learning things. And when we were moving into, you know, our new facility, our current facility, we were having really long conversations, you know, with everyone at M&R, and Humberto would come and stand in there, you know, with us for 4 hours at a time and, you know, work on the schematics and, you know, figure out, you know, I would stand in the blank room and try to envision where we could lay this out, because you only get so many times to do it again and do it properly. And, you know, we had a really good conversation where he was saying, you know, we need to think about things in a more scientific way. And that was like an eye-opening thing that was like, what do you mean? Like, we were just the art kids that were printing shirts in the basement. So like now we're worrying about, you know, lean manufacturing and how we just make life as simple as possible, not for the sake of saying, okay, well, if we do this, we can make X amount more dollars. It's more about how do we just make it efficient so that we can all enjoy doing this. We can all, you know, be part of doing something really creative and cool, and also have normal lives. At the end of it, you know, it's still normal lives that everybody wants to live.
You talk about nerding out. I mean, what did you do? If you want to ask me what I did over the quarantine, there was 2 days I was goofing around with a donut probe with our dryer, just trying to figure out if we had hot spots or what was the ideal setting to get the perfect puff ink. And wow, I got it up like an eighth of an inch more, but it took 2 days to do it. But we could now do it at the drop of a hat, and it is identical. And we know how to literally control opening a window and the breeze, making something shift. We are able to now correct it due to the ways that I could tell you if it is sweatpants, I could tell you what direction we have to have the pants laying because of a hot spot on the right side. It's not an M&R dryer. There's a perfect.
Well, fair enough, right? Fair enough.
It was just like the big dryer we have on one of our older presses. It had some hot spots, but I don't need to do that. Puff is puff, but I want to know why.
Well, let's just touch a base just real quick on your creatives with Care, because I think that program was exciting and you guys came out really quick with it out of the gate and just kind of went with it. So what was that like? What was that experience like?
When all of this hit, we were having a million internal conversations back and forth and seeing, what are our opportunities? What are our lifelines here? What do we have to do? Really quickly, a lot of shops jumped into the mask, the mask situation, and there was, all sorts of nonsense that we were watching from afar that was, beyond screen printing masks, everybody trying just to wheel and deal with, KN95s and N95. It literally was the Wild West. And in reality to us, we were tapped and we were on the front lines of that really early on. We were asked by a lot of our partners and clients, if we could just help with our supply chain and our pipeline to just source things. We were doing that literally at cost. I mean, there was no margin to us. It was just a concept of, this is all of us working together. We need to get people what they need pretty immediately. So, we were on the front lines of that and made a very conscious decision that we didn't want to publicize any part of that. We do what we do, and we're not trying to help people just for the sake of, okay, let's look better because this is going to potentially open us up to more clients. So, we've been very non-vocal about any of the mask stuff. I mean, we switched over our sewing departments, within the first couple days of the whole pandemic to start dealing with, sublimation masks. We were doing, sewing. It was just what we needed to be doing. And so, very quickly, that's where we jumped in. And in the meantime, Joe and I had been working on, all right, well, we're very used to the concept of these timed campaigns, pre-sales and e-commerce stuff and fulfillment that we've been doing, for the music industry, but also just pretty expansively for the last, 5 to 7 years. So that was the no-brainer to us. Let's do this. Let's get up very quickly. We have people, a lot of our employees, some of their second jobs were for the food industries. And so those were the first industries that got hit very quickly. So, we were already getting contacted by some of these companies and clients that were just saying, hey, is there anything that you can do to help? Or is there anything, we can do to help you? And so that just became second nature. Cool, we can do this. Let's put these up. Let's do time campaigns. There's zero risk to you. There's zero risk to us. And being very, very transparent about how the funding and how it monetarily breaks out, I think was very key to us, because every conversation that I had, that we had, with any of those potential people that wanted to take place, we were saying that this is a very transparent two-way street. The idea is that we are here to help you. We are here to generate funds. We're here to generate cool merch and whatever we can do to get people, to notice you, but also to get you funding. On the other side of that, we turn the model on its head, whereas a lot of other people that we were seeing out there doing it, there was still a pretty ridiculous margin that was going back to the companies that were producing. And so we said, this is not about us. This is about us. What is about us is making sure that if a company or a foundation sells 10 shirts or 10,000 shirts, the fact that we can at least sit back and we can rely on the fact that we know that we have 5 shirts that need to be produced, that means that there's however long that takes for our team to be able to work. So, you know, there was some very interesting conversations with, you know, some of the larger people who jumped on and were saying, well, how is this helping you guys? You know, can we direct a portion of these funds back to you? And we said no. We said that, you know, to be completely candid and honest, I have no idea if this is helping us. I don't know if this is going to help us keep our doors open, but that's not the point of this, because it's to go to you. So, you know, it was, again, very kind of daunting and confusing, and it still is kind of confusing, but we're seeing the numbers. I mean, I saw the Goodman Theater posted something earlier this morning that, you know, that campaign alone has raised over $50,000 that they, you know, we partnered with 100+ theaters in Chicago to give to, you know, displaced workers. You know, the campaign that we did with the Chicago Blackhawks, you know, raised a crazy amount of money as well. And we've got some really cool stuff that's gonna launch pretty quickly too, that is gonna support frontline workers. And, you know, I mean, they're just, the camaraderie is there. And I think a lot of the reasons of why it's been successful has just been based on our transparency, based on, you know, what we've been able to do really well and very seamless for years before this all happened, but also the sense of, I think, the integrity of how we've been carrying it out, and the way that we've had those relationships, and just the word of mouth of people that, like, these guys, they're doing it and they're doing it right. And so, you know, I mean, there was a lot of confusion early on with even some of our, you know, bigger, you know, influencers per se, and larger companies that were really kind of, everybody wanted to be proactive from the jump, but nobody knew the steps to take. And so that was where we were just like, let's come out swinging. I mean, we got to do something. And if we fumble along the ways, you know, we'll figure it out, but no one's going to chastise you for trying to help. You know, so that was just our mentality of let's get out there.
Yeah,
For sure, for sure.
One thing that I feel like that we really succeed in is putting ourselves in our customers' shoes. The first thing we thought when we were putting together Creatives Who Care was, right now, I guarantee you, every printer in the world is trying to save their own sinking ship. Rowboat, ha ha ha, maritime jokes. Everyone's trying to save their own sinking ship, and you know, anyone we're going to reach out to probably has 10 other emails offering the same thing. You know, a terrible, you know, profit split with the printer, so the printer could, you know, stay afloat, and then a meager amount goes to the company that really needs the money. And what we thought was, what if we just completely built the store? What if we completely made the design and had everything ready to go with the full out price breakdown and everything completely transparent? So there is no thinking, because the first thing I would think is, oh, great, now I got to find artwork. Now I got to, and I don't even remember the artist's name. I don't have the PSD, you know, in the right format. And no, it's, I got you. Here it is. Say yes or no, and then yes is live, and it's just go, go, go. And I know that extra step is something that I would appreciate. If someone went and did that for me, I would be in heaven. And that's the way we try to work, is we try to think of, what if I was the customer? And sometimes, you know, it gets costly. We don't like to give bad product out. We've completely pulled back full orders of stuff just because it was not up to our our level of excellence we expect.
And that was, in those, sorry, not to interrupt you, but like in those situations, that it's not, we pull it back, not because the customer complains and they say, hey, this is not up to my standards. I mean, there's been times when literally it's Joe and I, and we get eyes on something and we're like, we're going to redo the entire thing. Don't worry about it. Like, this has nothing to do with you. I don't care. It's not a question of this. It's just, it's our level of where we want it to be. And I think that just goes miles, because people see that and they're like, well, you didn't need to do that. You just lost money. You just ended up either paying for this, or, you know, it doesn't matter, because it comes back tenfold. That you're not going to lose those people, because they know how much you are invested personally and emotionally in what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
If we cared about money, would we be musicians?
Right.
True. Now, just real quick, and we gotta. I want to respect you guys' time here because I know how busy you are. How important do you think the merch store and social media piece has been to your business? Like, you guys seem very adept at navigating technology, even with challenges. Like we even had a challenge on this call, and we figured it out, right? It's like you guys are really good at that, and I've seen firsthand to some degree, at least Joe, and then to some degree also your Lucas's ability to navigate that. So maybe you just speak on that just real quick as far as merch stores and social media.
I think, I mean, there's, adaptability, I think is part of being in business in general. If you're not, especially how fast technology works these days, if you're not gonna at least try, you're gonna get left in the dust at some point. That's not to say that, I've been watching and everybody's been jokingly saying I still have yet to really understand the concept of TikTok and how it even works. I've downloaded the app like 3 different times, and every time I get into it, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So, I mean, for us, you can look at all of those things and say, okay, well, yes, of course, you have to have some level of social media presence. I mean, it's funny how quickly that has switched from, people are quicker to jump to your social media before they even go to your website these days. So, I mean, I think that it's your digital resume. Very quickly, you can get a sense of a person's vibe. You can get every single, what they're doing. Yes, of course, the quality of what they have, but, even that becomes suspect because, you can make a lot of things look pretty, on social media. And so I think it's just a very good read on, kind of the very blatant metrics of this, some of which are completely irrelevant. You're looking and seeing, okay, well, Kylie Jenner has, however many millions and billions of followers. What does that necessarily mean? I think there's a lot of really interesting articles that are out there that came out towards the beginning of the year. Now looking at micro influencers versus macro influencers, and companies that are out there that I've yet to see one company or one client or partner come to us and say, hey, we really want to do some really big business with you because you have a lot of followers. Like that's such an irrelevant metric to even be looking at these days. I think it's just, it's a first glance thing and people see it and they say, okay, well, are they vetted out? But at the same time, there's a sweet zone in there because I feel like companies, they don't want to work with the enormous, just you're another cog in the wheel. So when you still have the same, and this is something that we really try to like let it trickle throughout our entire teams of, we want to be able to give that person who is green to everything, they've never had any experience in screen printing, manufacturing, clothing lines or anything, give them that same care that you give to, we're giving to Nike and Adidas and everybody else that is like, the top tier people. There's no tiers to us. It's just everybody's the same because some of the largest clients and partners that we have now, they started literally doing 12 shirts when we were in the basement. And why they've hung on, they've got everyone and their mom that is coming out trying to say, hey, I'll beat Rowboat's prices. Oh, send me their invoices. I'll beat all their prices. And that means nothing to us. You say, go ahead, show them everything that you want. You're not going to take them away because it's the passion and the emotion that is there, and those people aren't going. We've built everything that we've done together, and that's like where we try to always land those things.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the technology thing, that to me is super important. Like even like when we go back to, I used to be a web designer when that used to mean something before they started teaching it to preschoolers and stuff. But I used to Dreamweaver was out, but I would still hand code everything into a notepad just because I want to know why Dreamweaver is like that WYSIWYG stuff. I want to know why it's throwing all these weird things in there. And that, like, the knowledge of that transfers to the knowledge of this, to the knowledge of this, to the knowledge of this. Like, you can hand us, like Adobe Illustrator 1, and I could do the same exact thing with my pen tool that you could do with all your weird automations. And technology wise, I mean, when this all happened, the shutdown and everything, we just said, okay, events, that's a thing, that put a pin in that one, that's going away for a while. but how do we take the technology that we have and let that adapt to this new marketplace, which is now all, all online. And we, Lucas is amazing at the social media stuff. But sometimes I look at our social media and I'm like, man, who does all this stuff? This stuff looks amazing.
Who is this company?
When I saw it come off the press, what's he doing over here? But I mean, we took all that stuff and tried to figure out ways to help our clients out the way we would want to. So I mean, I worked with you, Tom, when we when we were trying to come up with all these crazy automations, and just having a little bit of info, of all these different pieces lets me just reform a new puzzle in my head, and we know how to go straight to production just because we have a little bit of knowledge of all that stuff. And to be honest, when we went back into production, which we're currently functioning with like, what, 6 people, I went back to old school. I'm doing all the separations, but I know I would have lost my mind if I knew the amount of production we'd have to do and we didn't have the eye image or the tri-lock or the what do we got, the starlight. Oh my Lord, if you told me, oh hey, you know what, go pull off a, like a 14 color simulated right now, we need it right now, and I knew that I had to go back to our old,
Printing film.
film. It has, just knowing the amount, I could still do that. I could still go super old school. I could Ruby Lith it if you want me to, but knowing that I could get the ultimate quality that I need without that being my main focus, so I could focus on this and focus on that and be on the phone, and while I'm snapping things in and out of my eye image, and then I look out the door and someone waves to me holding a perfect shirt that they set up in 10 minutes. Those tools have really let us get bold with what we're taking on, because someone will hand us something, I'll be like, you can't do that. But we'll figure it out, because the least of my worries is the little logistical stuff that it is so repeatable and perfect every single time. And I know I could not have done it without having all these tools at my fingertips.
Any tips on how people can get in touch with you? Maybe they have some questions and they're working on some things, or they want to collaborate, or they need some help. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you guys?
I'd say either just main website, rowboatcreative.com, general, emails, info@rowboatcreative.com, phone number, everything is pretty much listed on, socials there. But yeah, we're always down to talk shop and, kind of talk to nerd out as much as we can. I mean, we love nerding out at any point when it means something productive on the other end for everybody.
Well, I appreciate so much of your time, guys. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Thanks for having us.